For nearly as long as there have been films, there's been film music. Music predates both human voice in films and the use of sound effects. For early films, music was played live at screenings, usually by an organist or a pianist, sometimes by an orchestra. As the otherwise silent film unspooled, intertitles or title cards would help explain the story to the audience, but music was used to create mood and feeling. Over the years, the scoring of films became more complex and sophisticated, just as the films did. And as magnetic sound strips were invented, voice, sound effects, and soundtracks were added right on the celluloid. Now, with digital mixing and presentation, the opportunities for sound and music have never been greater. Sometimes, music is part of the story itself. A character may be listening to the radio, or they may be at a concert or club. They may be listening to music on an electronic device, or even playing a musical instrument. This kind of music, which characters in the film can hear, is also referred to as diegetic. Music that only the audience can hear, which is the bulk of music in most films, is non-diegetic. Referred to as background or incidental music, this music is written and laid in so as to not upstage what you're seeing, but to support it, creating atmosphere and heightening emotion to the point of encouraging a particular reaction to the passage it's added to. If that's done subtly enough, it won't feel manipulative or cheesy. So it's important to get the incidental music right. Those incidental, non-diegetic pieces make up film scores. New music is commissioned for most film scores, but some scores are made up of pieces originally written for other purposes. The best of the scores written specifically for a film are what, theoretically, get nominated for Academy Awards every year. For example, at the 90th Academy Awards in 2018, it was Alexandre Desplat's music for The Shape of Water, which won the Best Original Score Oscar, some of which you are hearing now. A film's diegetic music, which could include songs that fill up a soundtrack album, can be put together many different ways. At the 92nd Academy Awards in 2020, it was I'm Gonna Love Me Again, the new Elton John song written for Rocket Man that won the Best Original Song Oscar. That film, a jukebox musical, told Elton John's life story through 21 of his classic songs, while adding a new one. I want to talk about a film, Call Me By Your Name, that could be called a jukebox classical. The approach to creating its soundtrack, while not unique, is atypical. Call Me By Your Name incorporates several classical pieces, both in the background and played live, to express its protagonist's musical milieu. It also grabbed songs that played on Italian radio in 1983 to ground the film in its era and to give the story its very own musical expression. Pertinent to our era, there are modern classical pieces and there are 3 songs by Sufjan Stevens, 2 written and 1 adapted specially for the film. Elio Perlman is the only child of a classics professor and a multilingual translator. At 17 years old, Elio is surprised to find himself interested in Oliver, a 24-year-old grad student who is spending 6 weeks with his family. Elio feels he has to keep his crush a secret. In the source novel of the same name, which Elio narrates, we are privy to Elio's every unverbalized thought and feeling. In the film, short of spelling out those thoughts in a voiceover, a device that does not typically work if the director wants you to feel present with the action, the filmmaker needs to find another way of indicating what's going on in Elio's head. What's going on inside is partly conveyed through what's going on outside, through body language and facial expressions, both of which young actor Timothée Chalamet excelled at, to the point of winning many awards for his portrayal of Elio. Body language and facial expressions can only go so far, though, and as the Elio of the book is a brilliant young man, one of the most endlessly self-analyzing characters in recent fiction, another device is needed in the film to better reveal his mind. As Elio also happens to be a musical prodigy, it's through music that director Luca Guadagnino puts more of Elio's inner workings on display. Elio's musical passion is mostly laid bare on the piano, typically as he works out or performs solo piano arrangements for pieces that were written for other instruments. When Elio is away from the piano, and when he feels more in control of his life, more at ease, the pieces he's been playing are laid in non-diegetically, in the background, although typically recordings by other performers are used. Most of these pieces appear on the soundtrack album. When Elio feels less able to control his life and is put off his game a bit by Oliver, modern classical music is laid in. It's more dissonant and complicated chords, melodies, and timing indicative of Elio's inner turmoil. The soundtrack pieces change whenever we're in a more social setting and the radio is on or Elio's friends are around. He is a 17-year-old growing up amid the same socio-musical setting that every local teenager does. So he drinks in the same Italo pop music radio that would have been the basis of any Italian teenager's environment in the summer of 1983. Finally, Sufjan Stevens' songs, the last musical component of the soundtrack, are reserved for when Elio's equilibrium is really turned upside down by Oliver. Stevens' work is the only music in the film written especially for it. Commissioned by Guadagnino to create songs that could act as narration for Elio's emotional state, Stevens returned with 3 pieces, one from his repertoire which was re-recorded in a piano arrangement, and 2 new pieces, all of which address Elio's journey. Stevens' modern folky pieces reflect Elio's deepest confusion, joy, or despair. Despite how important music is to Call Me By Your Name, it's fairly sparsely applied throughout the film. When it is used, therefore, the music takes on more meaning, enough that I'm going to do a separate video on the pieces themselves and talk about the significance that each carries. Look for that next. For now, though, I'll wrap up by returning to the awards that I mentioned earlier in this video. While one of Sufjan Stevens' 2 specially written pieces, Mystery of Love, was nominated for Best Original Song at the 90th Academy Awards, Remember Me from Disney Pixar's Coco ended up the winner of that category. There are other awards that recognize film music, and in 2018, the Guild of Music Supervisors, the professional peer group who oversee the compilation of soundtracks, honored Call Me By Your Name's music supervisor, Robin Erdang, with the award for Best Music Supervision for films budgeted under $5 million, and the award for the best supervision of a song created for a film for Mystery of Love. That recognition is the cherry on the cake for Call Me By Your Name's gorgeous music, which I'll dig deeper into in the next video.